All right. Hello, everybody who follows my astrology channel. I have noticed an interesting series of aspects taking place, and I figured the best thing to do would be to pull up my astrology software, Solar Fire here, and show you them on the screen, which, as you probably noticed, I do a lot of videos where I'm just not using the software at all. But here you can see, um, okay, don't pay attention to the actual aspects in the middle here. The important thing to notice is that there is an aspect, a secret aspect called an Antiscia that forms. In this case, we're talking about the summer solstice point. We're approaching summer solstice anyway. It's the longest day of the year. The sun is at 28 Gemini. When the sun reaches zero, it'll be at that longest day of the year, right? And Venus has already crossed that point, and Venus is just separating out of an Antiscia. So earlier today, Venus was at 2 degrees Cancer, and the sun was at 28 degrees Gemini, meaning that they were both on equal distances apart from the summer solstice point, right? And as you notice, we also have Mercury in the sign of Cancer. And as we progress along, Sun, Venus, and Mercury are all going to be in Cancer. And meanwhile, Jupiter in Gemini is a slower moving planet because it's an outer planet, or not like the modern outer. It's outer as opposed to it's on the side of Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn being on the other side of the Earth as these ones, right? Meaning that and it's got a slower orbit. What's going to happen is that when here you go. Eventually, Mercury is going to here. I guess it'll be like this, right? Because 20 if you take 23 degrees Capricorn and add 7, you get 30. So you get 23, and then you get Jupiter at 7, and then this is an Antiscia between Jupiter in Gemini and Mercury in Cancer, and that'll be happening on the 28th of June. And this is particularly interesting, this one, because Mercury is in reception. Mercury rules Gemini, and Jupiter has exaltation dignity in Cancer. So there is a kind of a mutual reception going on with exaltation rulerships and domicile rulerships. And then this is the meaning of an Antiscia is that using traditional astrology, if two if planets are in signs that are following each other consecutively, it's considered an aversion. In that it's kind of like being in a blind spot. But with this kind of aspect, you've got a kind of a secret communication happening like kind of like under the table, like where there could be a certain blind spot or an area of ignorance or a kind of a uh, maybe a misunderstanding or something that's confusing. There is in this kind of moment a a moment of insight or some sort of thing, but it's more subtle than the usual aspects. It's not gonna like you're not gonna maybe get beat over the head by the message, but it will still come through in a more subtle and dynamic that you have to pay more attention to. That not all astrologers know about Antiscias or apply them, so they may not, catch this one, right? And if we keep going, there's also interesting because, of course, the 4th of July for my American audience is all you patriots out there, I'm sure you're going to be having lots of fun, right? Um, what am I saying? So, on the 4th of July, if you notice, if you take that same kind of formula, 21 plus 9 equals 30, and then you got Jupiter at 9 degrees of Gemini, Venus at 21 of Cancer. It's not quite the same because Venus doesn't have any particular dignity in Venus is what you would call peregrine, being a kind of a wanderer or a stranger to the signs of Cancer and Gemini. So on the 4th of July, it may be not quite as charged as the Antiscia that was there with Gemini, being the ruler of Jupiter in Gemini. But there's still an interesting Antiscia aspect happening on the 4th of July, which is also, if you think about it, the America's natal chart. Obviously, that's the date they use for the natal chart. So there's some kind of like um, symbolic resonance with the political situation and the whole everything going on with the United States right now. Um, and with it's also, I mean, it's fortuitous that this is happening with the planets Venus and Jupiter. Um, Also, keep in mind that Mars and Uranus conjunction is coming up in the Venus-ruled sign of Taurus. But here, I think there's something going on. I find that Gemini sometimes gets a bad reputation for being kind of superficial in the sense of like putting on different masks or showing different, having multiple different personalities, and you never really know where they're coming from, or if it's all just an act, or if it's all just a game. And there could be something playful and light about Gemini, but there's something about these Anticias where I feel like Cancer has more investment into a form of sincerity and integrity, or coming from a kind of a place that's less intellectual and more about communicating emotional needs, like a desire to be understood on a more of a heart level rather than a kind of like airy, kind of detached, uh, just like a kind of Gemini can sort of have this like we're just playing around with ideas, we're just kind of detached, whereas Venus in Cancer, making that Antiscia, could be kind of asking for more of a sense of emotional honesty and integrity. Um, and that was interesting that's happening on the 4th of July because oftentimes people associate politics with being an arena of a lot of misdirection or politicians wearing masks or doing superficial things. But this could highlight the need for the soul of the nation, or the where the world soul is at, right? The soul of the world. And with Cancer, of course, being the first sign in the Thema Mundi, which is supposed to be the birth chart for the universe or the birth chart for the world that we live in. Uh, so there's a strong resonance with this Antiscia, and shortly after this, there will be another Antiscia where Mercury. I mean, it's almost like eventually there'll be squares between Leo planets and Uranus in Taurus, but there will be an Antiscia between Mercury and Leo and Uranus and Taurus the day after the 4th of July, which is also going to be the new moon in Cancer. So I just thought I would make this as a quick video to show you some interesting aspects, which I will be contemplating over the next few days. And perhaps I will do a longer, I don't know, video where I'm talking about these Anticias. But I thought I'd at least record this to point them out for you, for those that are interested. Thanks for watching. Thank you for supporting my channel. Keep on rocking the free world.